Hello and welcome to my studio. My name is Derek, a professional stained glass artist, and today's tutorial is all about the best brushes to use for painting on glass. If you're struggling to get the quality of line that you're looking for, if you're trying to get the really detailed work on glass but can't make it work for you, I'm going to show you some of the brushes that I work with here in my studio. We're going to go through the pros and cons of each brush and how best to use it. So let's get started. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I make inspirational videos and tutorials all about stained glass, so consider subscribing to the channel for the very best information on this beautiful craft. I also have online courses which you're welcome to look at and explore. I will leave links below this video to where you can find my online courses. And the brushes that we're talking about today, again, I will leave links below this video to where you can source them online. There are a variety of brushes here that I use for detailed work on glass. Starting with the standard brush that's often used, and I do this a lot in my training programs, the rigger brush. Why is it called a rigger brush? Well, these rigger brushes look a little bit like this. They are long, thin brushes, usually sable hair, but it might be a synthetic hair as well. And they're at least probably about 1 inch in length. They come in a variety of different thicknesses. Here's a much thicker version of the same one. Again, you can see here it's a long, thin sable hair brush. Now these are really good for doing line work. They hold a lot of paint, and I'll show you how I load the brush with paint to do painted line work. And these are great if you're going to do line work around borders, etc., or if you're doing geometric shapes. The rigger brush is really good for that. It's a little bit tricky to work with. You've got to really kind of develop a skill for it, and it is a little bit like trying to paint with a wagging dog's tail. It can be a little bit unruly and difficult to work with, but again, practice makes perfect. But I'll go through the principles of how to use this rigger brush first. Okay, for today's demonstration, we're just going to use a little bit of Rouge black here, tracing black. I'm going to mix it up with some water and a little bit of gum arabic. So spend a few moments grinding the paint down, just making sure there's no gritty bits in it. So I'm making a toothpaste consistency, and to that we're going to add a little bit of gum arabic. The gum arabic we're using today is the liquid form. It just looks like honey. We're adding a little bit to it, not a large amount. You don't need a massive amount, but experiment. If you want to use a powdered version of gum arabic, that works just as well. Mixing it well into the paint mixture here. Loading the brush in a circular motion like this, getting rid of any excess paint, and then we're applying our line work here, and we're holding the brush in a vertical position and putting a little bit of a bend in the bristles as well. And what we're looking for is a nice dense line. And you can vary the thickness of the line by pushing, applying more pressure or less pressure to the paint. And the rigger brush is a great brush for creating gestural lines, going from thin to thick and back to thin again. It really is a lovely brush to work with, and you have to just play with the weight of the paint. If it's too dry, the paint dries out. As you can see here, this line is getting paler and paler because we're losing our pigment quite quickly, so I'm adding a little bit more water to that. And you just have to practice with a rigger brush until you get the density and the amount of liquid in the paint just right so that it flows from the brushes. And this is really good for drawing straight lines. If you use your bridge here, you can use your rigger brush up against your bridge to create nice straight lines like this. The next brush we'll look at today is the KOLINSKY Sable brush. The particular quality of KOLINSKY Sable hair is that it has a great snap, what's called a snap. Basically it retains its shape and it retains this lovely sharp point here, and it's a great brush for doing lots of detailed work. It holds a lot of paint. It comes in a variety of different forms, and the term sable can be quite confusing because we also have red sable, which is a slightly inferior quality of sable to the KOLINSKY Sable, but it's still extremely good. So if you can't afford to go for the KOLINSKY Sable brush, then go for a red sable and you'll get some great results. Here's how it works on glass. So the advantage of using a KOLINSKY Sable is that it is actually more controllable than a rigger brush. and you can still get these same beautiful lyrical lines going from thick to thin, but it is actually, in the hand, it feels very much more controllable than a rigger brush, which tends to move around in unpredictable ways at times. The rigger brush is fantastic for doing straight line work, but if you wanted to do more curves and have a little bit more control over the quality of the line, going from really, really thin like this down to much thicker lines. So as you see, the quality of line that you get with this KOLINSKY Sable is really rather lovely, and rather lovely to control from very, very thin to much thicker. So for detailed work, consider using one of these brushes to get the quality of line that you're looking for. And the third brush that we're looking at today is a relative newcomer for me. It was recommended to me by other glass artists, and it is just a great discovery. It comes in a variety of different trade names. It's basically called a Reservoir Brush. Now that means basically that it comes with two types of hair. It's a slightly different looking brush. It has a bulbous end here and then a smaller hair in the center. It's actually made of two different types of brush hairs. So here are the two Reservoir brushes I'm working with today. This is the number 1 size, and this is number 5 size, and you can see by their profile they are a slightly different looking brush. It's because there are two different types of bristles here. The reservoir area is actually squirrel hair, and that holds the paint as a reservoir and feeds down to the tip here, which is actually red sable. Now the red sable is a slightly inferior sable to the KOLINSKY Sable, but still paints extremely well, and the great advantage of working with a reservoir brush is it allows you to paint a little bit longer, and you're not constantly recharging the brush every time you paint with it. Working with a reservoir brush is great fun, and it allows you to spend longer time on the glass surface painting rather than spending time recharging the bristles constantly. However, my go-to favorite without doubt is a KOLINSKY Sable. The quality of the bristles is superior to reservoir brushes. Red Sable, they're really good for day-to-day work, but if you get the opportunity, try a KOLINSKY Sable first. It is the best brush on the market. I'd be really interested to know how you get on with your glass painting, what kind of brushes you use, and what problems and solutions you've found to getting detailed work just right on glass. And check out this video next as you continue your stained glass journey. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.